All right, cool. Welcome to Looker Training. For the next 3 days, we're going to be meeting for an hour, and my intention is to get you guys, fairly up to speed with what Looker's all about as a data visualization tool. And we're continually getting new Looker projects, and we're growing our team and COE. Um, you know, a good end state for any one of you guys is to get certified in Looker, um, get a Google badge. That would be very helpful to both yourself and for our organization. Um, so yeah, let me share my screen and we'll get started. I gave everyone access to this folder yesterday. This is very important if for any of you guys, for self-learning of Looker. I certainly can't cover everything in these 3 hours, um, but I do want to arm you guys with the tools to really get in-depth Looker training. Um, you know, Last year I was on a client, American Family. It was a Looker POC, and we taught boot camps to their IT staff. And we were given some very nice slide decks from Google. Um, the Looker Developer Bootcamp that you see right here, the Advanced Looker Developer Bootcamp, and then the Looker Data Explorer Bootcamp. So as far as learning Looker, if you need to learn it by yourself, the best place to go to would be these boot camps. And if I go into one, um, you can either see it in slide form or in document form. This is in document form. It shows the slide, and then if I scroll down, you see how it gives me notes. And as far as learning by yourself, the best way, in my opinion, would be to read through these documents and read the notes. There's plenty of awesome tidbits of information in these notes. Um, so yeah, that's what I recommend you go through. Um, I am going to be skimming through the developer bootcamp today, but um, I think it would be most advantageous for all of you to see a live project that we've stood up in Looker called Project Phoenix. Project Phoenix is an internal project where we've taken all of our timesheet and bookings data, and we've produced reports for our leadership in order to manage our consulting business. So let me show you that right now. So this is the homepage for Project Phoenix. And what this project is, it's made up of about 15 reports, as you can see down here. Each one of these links is a report. We got some release notes. So this is called the homepage, and I can show you how this was made. But this is what our clients see, when they go into Looker, and all you got to do is just click on this Looker button. And I think for most of you, I'll get all of you guys developer access into Looker shortly after this session, so you guys can peruse around. But um, I think for any of you guys, the best way to learn would be to go into this Project Phoenix and dissect it and figure out what it's all about. I'm going to be going through Project Phoenix with you guys today just to show you all the different pieces and really just give you guys a good overview of how this project was stood up. in Looker. I'll go to one of the dashboards. This is an employee profile dashboard. It's defaulted to my name, and basically what this dashboard does is it hones in on a single employee, and then it attempts to provide everything about that employee. So at the top, you see high-level KPIs, just showing the descriptions of me. Now it's showing my skills. These are the ones that I'm highly skilled in, all the way to the ones where I don't know too well. Most of us filled this out about 6 months ago. So this is very useful for our leadership because I mean, the biggest thing about Project Phoenix that, you know, the creator of it, Jay Goebel, wanted was, you know, filling up people on the bench. You know, that's a process for our IT leadership. Let me go back to the bench report. This is our most highly used report, mostly used by Jay. He uses it all the time. It shows basically we have 88 people on the bench this week. And here are all the names of the people on the bench. You know, I think the biggest reason for Project Phoenix is to find the people on the bench and then to assign them projects. So this data inside of Project Phoenix, it's made up of bookings and timesheet data. The bookings data really is, you know, anytime we get a new project, our leadership will book it out in the future. They'll figure out, okay, we need 2 data engineers, 2 offshore data engineers, 2 BI engineers, 1 infrastructure. And then once they got those generic names for people, then they fill it out with actual people. So yeah, this is the bench report. Now let's go inside of Project Phoenix. This is the Project Phoenix developer project. And whenever you're working on the project, this is what makes Looker very special. It's a data visualization as a service type tool. It's a fully cloud-based, and it really comes from a software engineering background. I don't know if you guys notice it, but software engineering is really almost taking over everything, not because they're bad, but because they do things the right way. And a lot of what Looker's all about, the fact that you can go in and out of dev mode, the fact that it's integrated with Git, it really is a software engineering tool. So let's go into develop mode. And here is where you see, this is the LookML of the project. LookML is the semantic layer of Looker. All that LookML does is it writes SQL code to the database. What makes Looker very differentiated between Tableau and Power BI is that it's 100% in database technology. What that means is that Looker doesn't ETL the data from the database to its semantic layer. Instead, it attaches itself to the database and just writes SQL queries on the fly. So, you know, in today's age, data governance is a real big deal. Where is this data going? In how many places is it being stored? Looker is 100% or is best in class for data governance. And in my opinion, the reason why is because you got that assurance knowing that your data is never leaving your database. Also, all of the row level security, all the table security that you can implement in the database can also transpire into Looker. And so everything that gets set up in the database, you don't have to reset up in Looker. Since Looker's never storing data on its own, it's only just writing SQL queries on the fly. Best in class data governance because data never leaves your database. So looking at the LookML, there's really two big components to a LookML. It starts off with views. Views are can be many different things, but it starts off with direct readings of a certain table inside of a database. For our project, we were using GCP and BigQuery. So the view section is really all the tables that we've brought in to Looker. If I go into BigQuery, this is the data set that we're pulling all of our data from. It's called enterprise reporting data. And you see a long list of tables. These are all the tables of Project Phoenix that we've mostly brought into Looker. And let's go into a particular view. Let me find timesheet fact. This is one of the main tables. This is what the LookML looks like for a single table. It starts off by pointing to exactly what the table name is in the database, and then it writes out a dimension for every single field in the table, and that's what you see right here. It does some really cool things with dates in that you don't have to define the week, the month, the quarter, the year individually, but you can actually create a dimension group for a date field, and then it will provide a roll up by week, by month, and this is auto generated by Looker. Very simple to set up. As you know, in the BI space, once you get into the data viz tool, for the most part, tables are broken down into two types: dimension tables and fact tables. The holy grail is always to get into star schema data model. That's what's most optimized for any data visualization tool. And then within each table, there's usually two types of fields. There's dimensions and there's measures. These are all the dimensions. And if I scroll down below, these are all the measures. The difference between a dimension and a measure is an aggregated function. So whereas a dimension is stored at the row level, a measure is saying first aggregate and then calculate, this, for instance, total billable hours. It's telling you to type sum. So sum. Yeah, of course. Sorry about that. Yeah, of course, I'll zoom in. So this is a measure field, and you tell it what type of aggregation you want, whether it be a sum, an average, account distinct. In the SQL is where you put in the field of which you want to aggregate by. In this case, it would be hours dim. We do have a case when statements in there. Within this SQL statement, you can pretty much put whatever you want, and actually Looker doesn't test whether it's applicable or whether it's right or not, but this will inject into the SQL statement. Another very important piece to Looker is you always have to define the primary key of every single table in your data model. That's very important, especially for such things as symmetric aggregation, something we'll get to later on. But just know that, in the land of BI, what is a table? The first and most important thing about a table, when I see a table and I want to understand it, is first, what is the primary key of the table? What rows make the table unique? What that does is it defines all the facts in the table. So, what is hours? Well, hours is the unique, or the count. It's based on the primary key because that's the level or granularity of the table. So yeah, this is just a single view. Um, what else can I talk about? I'll show you what a derived table is too. So not all views are exact tables in the database. Sometimes it's actually a derived table. I think this is really my favorite part about Looker, what makes it so powerful as a tool, in that you have the ability to create tables off of existing tables, and there's many things that you can do because of that. Most notably is, you know, put the data at a new granularity, or or something known as, flattening or hardening a metric. You know, in any database, you can't take an aggregate of an aggregate. If you need to take the aggregate of the aggregate, you need to first create a derived table and take the metric and harden it so that it's just a dimension, and then you can aggregate it again. That's a common in all databases. But anyway, this is what is known as a native derived table. You don't really probably don't understand what this does, but this is built off of a single view, and it's this is Looker's special language, for native derived tables um, to build a view off of a view. Excuse me, I'm getting. So I just showed you, some pieces of what the view files look like. This is the LookML. This is the language that generates SQL on the fly. Let me show you what I mean. So this is the bench report, and if I were to explore a single tile in the bench report, now we're getting pretty much, I call it the kitchen of Looker, where tiles are built. This is known as an explorer, and within an explorer, this explorer is called employee future bookings. These are all the different tables in the data model of this explorer. And this is the shell or skeleton of the visualization that I'm making up. Underneath any visualization, like you see right here, is a table. And in this instance, it's a pivot table, since we're pivoting on a column, but we're showing the on bench count by week, segmented by a determinant, whether it's future or past. And that gives us the ability to provide color: orange, black, and green. Black is always represented as this week. But I said before, Looker is 100% in database, and it just writes SQL on the fly. If I go to the SQL section, you see the SQL that's generated on the fly to produce this individual tile. So that's what I mean when I say 100% in database, in that the LookML just generates SQL in the native database's language. Determining what the language is of the database, it will tailor its SQL code to that database. So yeah, this is the SQL on the fly that gets generated on the fly. And so once you generate the table skeleton, that's when you go on the visualization pane, and you have the option to figure out what type of visualization you want. You can just do a generic table, or a column chart, a bar chart. You can skim through them all. There's a ton of visualizations that you can choose from, and then there's also ones you can even download from the marketplace to bring into your environment. So there's even more than what you see here. And so this is just a single tile of a dashboard. This is known as the Explore layer. Let me go back. Now I showed you some of the views, and we have tons of view files in this project. The next step after building views is building models, and we have a single file, which is our model file. This is the LookML that brings all the tables together to produce an Explore. An Explore is basically a data model. Let me go to one that I know well. So here's an Explore called timesheet versus forecast, and it starts off with the fact table that makes up the data model. In this instance, it's called timesheet versus forecast. If I scroll down, you'll see a view file named timesheet versus forecast right here. This is basically the fact table of the data model. We're aiming for a star schema data model. That's what's most standard. And so we got the fact table right here, and then we join in all of the dimension tables, and there's a lot of them, and they're all defined. There's 3 parameters when it comes to joining tables. You got to define what the join type is going to be. What type is left outer, inner, full outer. Relationship is many to one, one to one, many to many, and then the SQL on is the exact fields of which you're joining on. So in this instance for client dim, we're joining on client ID, and that field exists in both the fact table and the dimension table. So this is the model file, and it's just made up of tons of different explores. We have every single explore defined in a single model file. And yeah, so, another thing to point out, with Project Phoenix, I mean, we've had probably about 7 different Looker developers, working in this project. Mostly, what generally happens is in our stand-up meetings, one of us will be asked to produce a dashboard, and the way it works out is the developer will pretty much work on their own and work in a manner so that they're not affecting anybody else's work. And the way to do that is, you use your own view files, and then you produce your own Explore. And there's other ways to do this. We could have produced one single Explore and then had every visualization built off of it, but I am of the favor of producing a single Explore for every single visualization. That gives independence to each visualization. When we had 7 cooks in the kitchen, and while we're cooking, we don't want to be affecting anybody else's work. So keeping things independent has some major advantages, especially when you're working on a large team. When I first started out at Maven Wave, my manager was Charlie Sanders, and he gave me the most valuable piece of information for my career. It's pretty simple, but he told me any data visualization tool is always made up of 4 different components. First is get the data. Second is wrangle the data. Third is visualize the data. And then 4 is surface the data. When I say surface, that means, send out emails or, all the ways that the data can be communicated to others. So let's talk about get data. So as far as getting the data into Looker, it all starts with connections. If I go to our connections pane, so step 1 of getting data into Looker, which is something only an admin can do, which I'm not a fan of. I am a full. I believe that any Looker developer should have the right to bring data into our environment without an admin's help. So if any of you guys are going to create a Looker project, I'll be happy to just make you an admin for 6 hours just so you can get your data into your environment. The two connections that we have built, we got both a dev and a prod environment in a single Looker instance. For the dev project, the connection is called Phoenix Reporting Dev, and it's pointing to the schema in the database. If I go into the edit mode, this is how you stand up a connection. You first give it a name. You tell it what dialect it is, and if you scroll down, you see every single database that's modern that you can think of is available for Looker. Tons of different databases. It's got all the big ones, all the new ones. And then you give it the project ID. So for the dev environment, this is the project name in GCP, as you can see right here. And then you give it the data set. The data set is basically the library in the project. So enterprise reporting data is the data set of where all the data resides. So that's another parameter that you put into Looker. And then this is the hard part. You got to get the service account email, and then you got to upload a JSON file. That is something you do in BigQuery. To get that JSON file, you go to the I am an admin. Is that right? I believe so. And you go to service accounts. Let me screw them in. So if you ever need to create a connection in Looker, you're going to, and mostly you're going to be using BigQuery, but you could be using something else. But with BigQuery, you got to create a service account. And this is where you create a service account. You go into IAM and admin, go into service accounts, and then you can create a service account. I do not have the ability to create it in GCP. I would have to ask the owner of GCP to create it for me. But if I find I'm trying to find the JSON file that comes with this. I won't go too far into it, but somewhere in here, it will give you that JSON file that you need to copy and paste or upload into the connection. Other than that, you really don't need to change much. A big thing is whether you want to have persistent derived tables or not. Persistent derived table is a derived table that actually gets written to the database. Rather than it being ephemeral, it is persistent. That makes query processing a lot faster, especially if the derived table is rather complex. And if it takes a long time, you're going to want to persist it. And with a persistence, it usually is a scheduled creation of the derived table, say every hour, or you could even make it anytime the underlying table changes. Make the persistent derived table change. That gets set up right here. Um, yeah, you don't need to change anything else. But you can look at this. There's all sorts of settings, such as like the database time zone. That's a very important one if you want to make sure your time zones are right. But that's step one of that four-step process of a data viz tool. Get data. It starts with a connection in Looker. That's what I'm showing you right now. Once you get the connection built, then it's now you're in the semantic layer. You're working on bringing your data in and building data models. Um, in Looker, you click on the three hamburger. There's three big sections of Looker. Depending on your credentials, will determine whether you can see it or not. But the three panes are Explore, Develop, and Admin. Um, Develop is where you go when you need to write your LookML. Let me put in Phoenix. Let's go back into our Phoenix dev project. And we saw this before. This is all the views. This is the model file. Let's talk now about Git. So Looker is backed up by Git. Git is a workflow orchestration tool for really something that has been created by the software engineering community. And yeah, what makes Git really special is that when it comes to development, you get to develop on your own individual branch. That's not going to be affecting anything in the production environment. So it gives you the ability to, go inside your own world, create it's your own environment. You can do whatever you want. You can break things. You're not going to be affecting anything else. And then once your code is ready and it's right, then you can promote it to prod. Um, so if I were to just go into if I make a single change, it'll first ask me to save changes. And this button on the right is really when you're working with Git. So step one is to validate your LookML. So it'll scan through the entire project and pinpoint if there's any errors, and then it'll give you this green check mark if there aren't any LookML errors found. That's step one of Git. And then step two would be to commit your changes and push. This is right before deploying, committing is the next step. So Looker's doing its thing. It's scanning. It should. I put an underscore right here. That's should produce a LookML error because no such field exists in the table. Let's see what Looker does. Um, for committing, you just put in a message of what you did, what was your code changes. Select commit. I was going too fast. Okay, so I committed my changes, and then the last step after committing is to deploy to production. If I go to the Git panel, as you see, this is like the Git logo. Um, it gives me all the options for what to do, and after I commit, the next step would be to deploy to production. And at this point, once it's done, now your code is now in the main branch. So it's no longer your own personal branch. You just pushed it to production. Now I pushed an error to production, this underscore. Let me switch it back. I just wanted to show you guys the steps in Git. If you're new to Git, it's okay. Honestly, you just really need to focus on pushing this button. I have, you know, tried to break things quite often in Git, and I can't seem to. So, in my opinion, it's pretty safe. Um, you know, Let me show you what Git, what our Git looks like. Is that right? There it is. Oh, we'll skip it. My email's not working, but we are using Bitbucket for our Git repository. Basically, Bitbucket saves all of the LookML code behind the scenes, and it's full of branches. It's got a production branch and different individual branches. It really saves off all the code that you can create in Looker is saved in Bitbucket. Give me 1 second. I'm going to be right back. I'm converting my changes, and then I'm going to push this to production. Okay, cool. So I just showed you, the Git component inside Looker. Looker Git just branches out the work, lets people work in their own environment. Really great tool. Really, what makes Looker a lot better than your other data viz tools like Power BI and Tableau. Now let me show you the process of creating a visualization for a dashboard. Once you got the LookML figured out, you got the views created, you got the model created. Um, that brings you to the explore layer, and the explore layer is like the kitchen of the data of the dashboard, where you make the individual tiles of the dashboard. So if I go into the explore pane, This is the area where you make out the visualizations, and I selected a single uh, model called single employee dashboard. Here are all the different tables associated with the model, and I know this one very well. If I do, um, if I want to make a chart that just shows hours by week, I select the week component, and then these are all the dimensions up top in black, and then in orange are all the measures. If I just do billable forecast hours, so it's drag and drop. I just drop two fields into the results pane, and it's going to aggregate by all the dimensions, and then it's going to provide the measure values based on the aggregate. And then to visualize it, this is the next step. Um, this shows a visualization of all the uh, billable forecast hours over time. It goes back very far. Maven Wave has been in existence at least since 2012. That's where our first information comes. This is data from open source, and that's really the tool of which we do our bookings and our timesheet. That's the tool we're all using to fill out our timesheets. So this is just a visualization, and let's say I want to put this visualization into a dashboard. I click this gear icon, and then I do save to an existing, or either save to an existing or save to a new dashboard. I'll do a new dashboard. I'll keep it in my folder. So I just saved this view to a dashboard. Now let's go into that dashboard. Another thing that's important to know, with Looker, take advantage of the fact that it's a software as a service tool. Creating, different tabs for all the different pieces in Looker is very helpful. Instead of just working in one tab, you have every right to bring a bunch of tabs open, and it all works out. You just got to make sure that when you make one change in one tab, and then when you move to another tab, you want to refresh it just so that it's got the latest changes. If I go into my personal folder, it should show the dashboard that I just created called Looker Training. And as you can see, this is the tile that I was creating in the Explore layer right here is now in a dashboard. To edit a dashboard, you click on these three gear icons and click Edit Dashboard. And this gives you ability to modify the tile, as far as what shape you want it to be in. It works like reverse Tetris. Let me add a new tile. So it, as you can see, like if you've all played Tetris before, this is reverse Tetris. Things just always go to the top. The gravity takes things to the top. So that's the process of building a dashboard. When it comes to dashboarding, I mean, you typically start with KPIs up top, and then you drill into other components below it. We can turn this into a KPI. Save it. So typically with dashboards, you want to put the high level KPIs at the top, and then and this is really how I build dashboards in Looker. I don't always start with the Explorer and then go to dashboard. I usually start in the Explorer the first time to create the first tile that I want, and then I just do copy and pasting in edit mode of the dashboard. And I can go into this pane, edit it. Instead of billable forecast hours, I can choose billable timesheet hours. Uh, so yeah, that's the general gist of making a dashboard. You can add filters up top. So let's say we want to have a week filter. Just added a filter to the dashboard, and this will filter out everything. We're just showing the last 12 months. And as you can see, this tile, every tile now is only showing the last 12 months. If I wanted to add billable timesheet hours to this plot, so this table, or this tile is showing billable hours and timesheet hours, and they line up pretty closely. The billable forecast hours is our bookings hours. That's, every week, each of us billable consultants, um, are booked to, say, bill 20 hours to project A, and then, whether you actually fulfill those 20 hours, you don't have to. You want to, but sometimes you work 19 hours, sometimes you work 22 hours. So, it's basically your actual hours versus your forecasted hours is the general gist of what this data is all about, bookings data and timesheet data. But this is a Looker demo, so I'm just using this project to teach you guys Looker. And we got 8 minutes left. What else can I teach you today? In this environment, we got both the dev and the production environment in one instance. Most of the time, dev and prod are going to be on two independent Looker instances. That makes the Git workflow more intuitive, but we only have one Looker instance, so we had to be creative and do both dev and prod on a single instance. It works fairly seamlessly. It's just not as seamless as what it would be if we had multiple instances. But as you can see, we got both the dev and the prod. And the production is basically a clone of our dev environment, not totally a clone in that we do development work and development, and it doesn't always go to production, but we pretty much duplicated the project in production. Another thing to point out is I didn't tell you about LookML dashboard files. This is very important when you move dashboards from dev to prod. You got to take a dev dashboard. Again, if I go, So in order to take this dashboard and move it to production, it'd be a matter of going to these three dots and saying Git LookML. It gives you the exact code to build the dashboard right here, and you just copy it to your clipboard. And then you go into your dev project and you add it as a dashboard element right here. Create it. And there it is down there. You just paste the LookML code that you have that you just copied, and then we plug this this dashboard file into the dashboards folder. There we go. So now we see test dashboard. A very, in order to make this code both work in dev and prod, we got to do one special thing. Instead of it pointing to an exact model, whether it be dev or prod, we turn it into a generic name. So this represents the dev model. Just turn it into a dynamic parameter. So that says whether you're in dev or whether you're in prod, use the associated model. That in itself gets created in the manifest file. Since we're in the dev environment, the model name is going to have the value of Phoenix reporting. This is the dev model. If I were to go into the production project, this would be a different value. But now the dashboard is a LookML dashboard. It's ready to go, ready to be moved to production. And when you create a LookML dashboard, the dashboards get saved in a special place called LookML dashboards. If I go into the folder section, LookML dashboards. These are all the dashboards that have LookML code backed up with it. It goes into this folder. If I find the testing, I wish this was in alphabetical order. There's a ton in here. Anyway, this is where all the LookML dashboards get created, and then once if you want to move this to a particular folder, you just go into the three dots and you import it, and that basically changes it from a LookML dashboard back into a normal user-defined dashboard, which isn't backed up by code. But that's how you move it across the environments. We're out of time. We'll cover some more material tomorrow, but I hope this gave you a quite nice overview of what Looker's all about. Yes, Aditi?
Hello, Danny. I just had a question, if I can ask.
Of course.
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to know, like, we had created the dashboard. If you could open it for a second, dashboard that we created.
Yeah, right here.
So here we were having this Looker training copy and Looker training copy too. What does this mean? These values?
Oh, that's just the title of the tile. So
Okay.
it should be changed. So this should be total billable hours. That's just the title of the tile.
Okay. Okay. Got it. And
Yeah.
one more thing, like at the time we were means just updating our column name to client underscore ID underscore. So when we were using the validate look ML button, so was it not giving an error on the means column name that we means have changed? So it was not giving an error at that time.
Yeah, it wasn't. I thought it would, but no, it wasn't. Let me make sure. Let me figure out a way to get an error, and I'll show you what it looks like when you do make an error. I just do that. That certainly will produce an error. So this is invalid, and after validating code, it will show you exactly what happens. It's telling you where it is. If I click on this hyperlink, it should take you exactly where the error exists, which it does, points you to it. So it's a very nice piece about Looker. So you're going to get errors, you're going to have problems, and Looker will help you figure it out.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, we will reconvene tomorrow, and I hope you guys got some good information out of today. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Danny.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.